Shiki was just an average delinquent who had been on the verge of being expelled from school. However, everything changed when a mysterious attacker struck him down and took his father's life, leading him to uncover the demon blood that flowed within him. Fueled by a desire for vengeance, he vowed to master his newfound powers. In ancient times, a demonic race known as the Oni terrorized Japan, causing chaos and slaughtering humans without remorse. Fearful of their wrath, no one dared to stand against them. Yet, a brave warrior named Mamo emerged as the defender of humanity,
killing thousands of them. But that was just the beginning of a long war between Momotaro and the Oni that continues even in the modern age. Unaware of how this old fairy tale is linked with his destiny, a teenager named Shiki is cleaning his firearm collection while talking to a friend on the phone. He laughs about the fact that he recently got expelled from school because of a fight and says that he doesn't even mind it because he was sick of seeing the ugly face of his classmates each day. Just then, his adoptive dad Tsuyoshi arrives there and hits him on the head, demanding him to explain why he got expelled from the school. Shiki tells him to leave him alone, and Tsuyoshi moves ahead to hit him one more time for being an ungrateful bastard. But Shiki dodges him this time. Tsuyoshi then asks Shiki what the hell is up with all these guns because they run a wine shop and not a gun shop. Shiki taunts him that the wine shop is barely running because everyone knows that he is losing customers. Tsuyoshi claps back, mocking him for acting so high and mighty after being expelled from school, and Shiki takes it personally. He says that he will never become a loser like Tsuyoshi, and he is really relieved that they are not related by blood. That hurts the old man's feelings, but then he heads downstairs because of a business call. Tsuyoshi leaves for a delivery, and Shiki sighs, wishing that some rich man had adopted him instead. He then tries to practice his aim, but an explosion outside the house startles him. He goes outside to see what is happening, but a dense fog blocks his view. Suddenly, a gust of strange black mist shoots out of the fog and Shiki falls back in shock. The mist follows him, grabbing his leg and dragging him outside before dropping him on the street. As Shiki gets up and wonders what the hell is happening, a scary old man dressed in white appears there, ready to attack him. However, the very next moment, Tsuyoshi returns there and he rams his car into the attacker before telling Shiki to get into the car. He drives away as fast as he can, saying that their only option is to leave the country now. However, Shiki has still not processed what just happened. He asks his dad how could he just kill someone with his car, but Tsuyoshi tells him that the man is not dead yet and they need to get as far away from him as they can. He is really distressed and tells Shiki to listen to him carefully as they don't have much time. Tsuyoshi tells Shiki that he is a descendant of the Oni, and the guy who just attacked him is the descendant of Momotaro. Shiki tells him to stop joking because it is not the time for that, but Tsuyoshi tells him that he is serious. Just then, a blade made of black mist penetrates the car's roof, and Tsuyoshi barely dodges it. He realizes that the attacker has caught up to them, and then suddenly, the windows of their car are covered by black mist, completely blinding them. Tsuyoshi stops the car near an abandoned warehouse and quickly gets out of it, telling Shiki that they need to hide immediately. Just then, the car explodes, and when Tsuyoshi turns back, he finds that Shiki is missing. Luckily, he sees a trail of black mist entering the warehouse and realizes that his son has been taken there. Inside the warehouse, Shiki finds himself trapped in a giant web made out of the black mist, with a scary guy named Samadare standing in front of him. Samadare tells Shiki that the Oni blood in his veins makes him nothing but a pest, and exterminating such pests is the job of the Momotaro agency. Shiki is still in shock that Samadare survived being crushed by a car, but just then Tsuyoshi comes there, telling him that the fairy tale of Momotaro is a real story. He says that for thousands of years, Momotaro and Oni have been at war with each other through their descendants who share their blood. Eventually, the Momotaro descendants joined hands and formed the Momotaro Agency, gaining advantage in the battle and forcing the Oni to hide among humans to survive. Shiki still can't understand what is happening, but Tsuyoshi tells him to let Daddy handle it. Samadare suddenly creates two swords out of black mist, and in response, Tsuyoshi also unleashes the same ability to fight him. The two men dash towards each other, clashing their blades and releasing a powerful shockwave. Tsuyoshi somehow pushes Samadare back, but he calls him weaker than he used to be back then. Samadare explains that the black mist is the unique ability only the descendants of Momotaro can use, and Tsuyoshi was once his senior in the Momotaro agency. Shiki is aghast on learning that his dad is a descendant of Momotaro, but Tsuyoshi says that he has forgotten about that entirely. Samadare asks him if he has also forgotten how dangerous Oni are. He declares that for the crimes of sheltering an Oni, Tsuyoshi will also be eliminated. Tsuyoshi responds by attacking him first, but he and Samadare are equally matched in strength. Shiki can only watch their crazy fight in bewilderment, while Samadare asks Tsuyoshi why is he protecting a monster who only lives for destruction. Tsuyoshi tells him to shut up and tries dealing serious damage to him, but Samadare is much faster than he expected. He easily dodges the attack and then hits Tsuyoshi with a super fast combo, severely injuring him and knocking him out. Shiki is devastated on seeing his dad bleed out, and he curses Samadare, saying that he will kill him. Samadare, however, tells him that he is going to go to the afterlife with his dad soon. Just then, Tsuyoshi grabs his feet and Samadare asks him why is he going this far to protect an Oni, and he replies that he needs no reason to protect his son. He says that Shiki has not harmed anyone yet, and it is wrong to kill him just because he has Oni blood. Samadare just creates a black mist sword to finish him off, and the rage boiling inside Shiki finally hits its limit. As his eyes turn red, he swears that he will kill the bastard who is trying to hurt his dad, and his demonic powers awaken. He starts bleeding from every pore of his face, and his demonic horns sprout out of his head. Shiki yells that he will kill Samadare, and when the man turns around to see him, he finds that Shiki is no longer restrained by the web. The very next moment, a bunch of guns made out of blood pop up next to his face, but thanks to his quick reflexes, he manages to block all the shots. However, Shiki has already moved on from that location, and while Samadare wonders where he is hiding, he notices blood dripping from the rooftop where Shiki is hanging upside down like a deranged Batman. Seeing his blood-covered form, Samadare realizes that Shiki has awakened, and now he can fight by manipulating his blood. But that is not even the scariest thing about fighting an Oni. Suddenly, Shiki lunges towards him, pushing him back with his powerful strikes. Samadare quickly flips the table on him, slashing his arm off, but Shiki jumps back and instantly regrows his arm. He then screams madly and Samadare begins to sweat because he realizes that this fight is not going to be easy. Shiki manifests his power in the form of numerous guns made out of blood, and Samadare is forced to use all his strength and speed to block the bullets. Just then, Shiki fires a freaking missile at him, and thanks to his instincts, Samadare dodges it by a very small margin, and the rocket explodes behind him. The old man is forced to run away from Shiki's ruthless assault, but then he throws his sword at him, hoping to take him down quickly. However, that is not nearly enough as Shiki quickly reaches him and kicks him away. Samadare is too tired and injured to move fast enough, and Shiki steps on his face before unloading a full military battalion worth of ammo on his ass. However, Samadare somehow manages to get away with his life, even though he is terribly injured. He curses Shiki, but then suddenly, Shiki collapses and the guns made of blood shatter. His Oni transformation is undone, and as he stares at his bloody hands, Shiki loses his mind, wondering what the hell just happened here. Samadare recalls this as a typical reaction of people who awaken their Oni powers for the first time. With his remaining power, he summons a black mist sword again, deciding to finish his job right now. However, just as he is about to stab Shiki, Tsuyoshi jumps in between them, sacrificing himself to save his son. Samadare asks him how he could risk his life to save the boy, even after seeing the monster he became. Tsuyoshi just thinks of how Shiki was a cute little boy and tells his old friend that it was not a bad thing to be a happy father, even if it was for a short period. Just then, some civilians gather at the site after hearing the explosion and call the fire department, and Samadare decides to retreat for now. He turns into black mist and vanishes, leaving the injured Tsuyoshi and the confused Shiki alone. Shiki panics and tells his dad that he will call an ambulance, but he asks him to stop because he knows this is the end. He just wants to talk to his son one last time at the end. Tsuyoshi tells him that he could never tell him about his Oni lineage because that would mean telling him that there are people out to kill him. But now, he can only ask Shiki to become strong enough to defeat both Momotaro and Oni so that he can live freely and happily. However, Shiki shouts at him to shut up because he is not done with him yet. He begins taking him outside, saying that they will talk after he gets better, and Tsuyoshi just smiles at him once before breathing his last. As he falls to the ground, Shiki loses his mind. He tries to wake him up first and then starts crying uncontrollably. Soon after that, a man on roller skates arrives there, and when Shiki turns around to see him, he knocks him out with a single tap to his head, before taking him away to a place where Oni like him can become stronger. While he is unconscious, Shiki dreams of the happy moments when he used to play in the park under his dad's watchful eyes. But then the dream turns dark abruptly, with Tsuyoshi dying at Samadare's hand. Shiki wakes up with a jolt as he stares into the bloodshot eyes of Samadare. But when he looks around, he finds himself gagged and tied to a chair in a large empty hall. Right behind him, the skater guy who kidnapped him is doing one-arm handstand push-ups with his umbrella, and he gets back on his feet as soon as he sees Shiki awake. The edgelord introduces himself as Nato, a fellow Oni, and quickly manifests his horns. Shiki is too confused by everything, and he can't even pay attention to Nato, who refuses to tell him where they are right now. He informs him that his dad's body is stored safely in another place, and he brought him here for retrieval and evaluation. Nato then suddenly skates to the whiteboard in the corner and drags it closer to Shiki, before flexing how fast and efficient it is to use roller skates instead of walking. Next, he begins explaining the Momotaro agency to Shiki, saying that he has already seen one guy who can control the black mist and use it like a weapon. the Momotaro agency finds and hunts Oni, and in response, the Oni created their own agency to fight back. Nato says that his job is to find newly awakened Oni like Shiki and bring them to a safe place where he can evaluate if they are worthy of joining the Oni agency. With that brief intro, he puts the whiteboard back in its place and then removes Shiki's gag so that he can interview him. As soon as he removes the gag, Shiki starts yelling at him to free him. He also curses Nato, threatening to kill him if he has harmed his dad's body, and Nato immediately deducts a point from his score that is already 0. He calls Shiki a moron for not understanding what safely stored means because he mentioned it a couple minutes earlier. Shiki gets mad at him and says there is no way he can trust a shady edgelord like him, and Nato wasn't expecting anything else from him. He decides to deduct more points from Shiki's score the more he curses and demands to be set free, telling him to cooperate if he wants to pass the evaluation. Shiki doesn't give a shit about the evaluation, but he wants to be free quickly, so he tries holding his anger. However, he can't even do that properly and Nato tells him to stop giving him the creepy look. Shiki snaps on hearing this and Nato decides to evaluate him using a non-standard method because normal things don't seem to work with nut jobs. He takes off his tie and before Shiki can even realize what is going on, Nato uses the tie to strangle him with his full strength. Shiki panics as he loses his breath and Nato says that a creature's true nature is revealed when it is close to death, and that is what he wants to see. Shiki tries to resist with his full strength, but he can't get out of the chokehold even after bleeding from every hole on his face. He soon loses consciousness and Nato is disappointed in him, but the blood that Shiki just lost awakens as a result of its power. It turns into sharp spikes and attacks Nato, who dodges the attack without much difficulty. Suddenly, he finds a Gatling gun made of blood pointing at his head, and behind it, Shiki is in his berserker state. He opens fire at Nato and then backs away after he is satisfied. But his attacks didn't even touch the edgelord who protected himself by coating his umbrella in his blood. He deducts 100 points from Shiki's score because he doesn't even know how to use his Oni blood, and then decides to show him how it is actually done, even though he won't remember anything once the berserker state ends. Shiki suddenly lunges towards him, but Nato is prepared for everything, and a few minutes later, Shiki regains his consciousness, lying defeated on the ground. He can't understand what just happened, but then he looks at his red hands and panics, realizing that he went out of control again. Nato calmly sits on top of him, saying that it is natural that his memory is a blank because when an Oni goes into berserk mode, they lose their mind. Around them, the hall is a total mess as a result of their fight and Shiki tells Nato to stop lecturing him when he is also using his blood as a weapon. Nato immediately makes his blood umbrella disappear, telling Shiki that he never went berserk because he can actually control his power. He then declares that there is nothing to be said anymore because Shiki is disqualified from joining the Oni agency. Shiki still has no idea what the hell is happening, but if there is one thing he knows for sure, it is that Nato is ridiculously strong. He decides to swallow his pride and begs Nato to take him as his underling because he wants to get stronger and avenge his dad. Nato immediately refuses his request, telling Shiki that someone like him who doesn't use his brain while fighting is always the first person to die in a real battle. He calls him a useless disgrace who can neither control his brain nor his power, and Shiki uses every ounce of his strength to hold back his rage. Nato then declares that it is time for him to dispose of Shiki, because a berserk Oni is a liability to everyone. He uses his special ring to cut his thumb, letting a stream of blood trickle out. He turns the blood into an umbrella, and Shiki suddenly gets an idea about how to make him change his mind. He runs away from Nato's range, and then dashes towards him while dragging his fist on the ground till it bleeds. Nato quickly turns his umbrella into a spiky shield that will protect him from any melee attack, and then calculates the possible moves Shiki can use. Shiki jumps up at the last moment, which was among the possibilities that Nato calculated, but then he surprises him by using the spikes to jump to the side and point a bloody gun at his face. Shiki puts all his focus into the gun, shooting a powerful shot with the recoil sending him flying backwards. He can't believe that he managed to land a hit on Nato, but it turns out that he couldn't do it even this time. Nato simply blocks the blood bullet with his finger and shatters it, not giving Shiki any credit for the attack because he went halfway to berserk mode in order to attack him. As Shiki seems to lose his mind again, Nato decides to finish him off with his special move. He puts himself in a protective cage and summons archers made using his blood, ready to shoot at his command. However, as he notices Shiki fighting back against his berserker instincts and getting his power under control, Nato cancels his special move. Shiki is proud that he managed to control his power, but he falls on the ground because he just used up too much energy. Nato can't believe that not only Shiki controlled his powers, but he also suppressed berserker mode, which is not something everyone can do. He asks him how the hell did he do that, but Shiki smugly tells him to accept him as his underling to unlock the answer. Nato tells him that he will think about it, and Shiki decides to take that as a yes. He says that when Nato talked about controlling his blood, he didn't understand but when he saw him slice his thumb and use the blood to create a weapon, he got an idea. He thought that since they were both Oni, he could just ape his and surprisingly, that worked. He didn't understand the fine details though, and he just let his arm bleed while yelling at it mentally to form a weapon. Shiki is still hyped that his gambit worked and asks Nato what he thinks about that. Nato thinks that it is utter bullshit because that is not how things work. From his experience, dumb and emotional teens like Shiki have a hard time controlling their blood, while rational and calm people like him have the best chance at using their power properly. He thinks that Shiki doesn't listen to reason or even let his berserker mode control him, and he can use his raw instinct to brute force his power into obeying him. He thinks that it is a very rough method, but it can also give someone an explosive amount of power. He begins to wonder what to do with this unique case, when suddenly, Shiki tells him that he needs power to avenge his dad and kill the man who murdered him. He tells Nato that if he takes him in as an underling and teaches him everything, he will become useful to him. However, Nato refuses to consider that possibility. He turns his umbrella into a spear, telling him that people like him are a risk to society, because he didn't even know that he could control his power and just took a gamble. He says that he can't accept him as a lackey, and then acts like he is going to stab him with the spear, but only hits the floor near his head. He tells Shiki that he won't accept him as an underling, but as a student, and that is really confusing for Shiki, because he thinks both are the same thing. Nato tells him that he passed the test barely, but he will give him the chance to prove his abilities. Shiki can't make sense of what is going on, so Nato decides to start from the basics. He tells him that they are on an island called Hell's Doorstep, which was known as Onigashima in the past. It was the place where the original Momotaro massacred demons, but now it is a place where the Oni can live safely. At the center of the island, there is the Rosetsu Academy, which is a military school that trains Oni to fight against the Momotaro agency. Shiki gets freaked out on learning that he is on an island, but Nato pokes his face, telling him that it is not important. The most important part is that the Rosetsu Academy will teach him everything from general education, controlling his Oni blood, fighting techniques, and the history between Momotaro and Oni. Nato is Shiki's homeroom teacher, and he tells him more about how they do things here at the academy, but that is more than his pea-sized brain can handle. Shiki doesn't even care about that because all he wants to know is if he can become strong enough to avenge his dad. Nato can't give him any guarantee, but he tells him that if he can't become strong enough to fight the Momotaro agency, he will be expelled from school. Soon, Shiki gets dressed up, and he is excited to go to a different kind of school, but Nato warns him that other people have passed the test this year, and he is probably the least skillful amongst them. Suddenly, Shiki remembers his dad and asks Nato where his body is. Nato replies that they have kept him in the morgue because they wanted Shiki to handle the funeral as per his beliefs. Shiki gets a bit gloomy on thinking about his dad's death, and Nato tells him that being a gloomy idiot is a waste of time, and he should focus only on becoming stronger so that he can get his revenge. Shiki says that he seems like a nice guy after all, and that embarrasses Nato, who speeds away, telling Shiki that if he doesn't reach the class before him, he will be expelled. Shiki somehow catches up to him, and as he wonders how should he enter the class to farm the maximum amount of aura, Nato just kicks him through the door. Shiki feels like he got some aura debt because of his uncool entry, and he asks the masked boy named Jin for some tissues for his nosebleed. Jin turns out to be an even bigger edgelord than their teacher, and he tells Shiki to stop talking to him. Shiki gets mad at that and starts teasing him for not having his horns yet. Jin simply manifests his horns, saying that only dumb rookies who can't control the horns flaunt them all the time. This comment offends another guy named Ikari, who also can't control his horns. Things start getting tense in the classroom with Shiki getting up close and personal with Jin. However, before things can get violent, Nato suddenly arrives behind them and Shiki finds himself sitting right next to Jin without even realizing when it happened. Jin is equally shocked, but Nato doesn't have time to waste with what his students think. He says that for their first lesson, they are going to play a game of tag. He takes all the students to the forest, telling them that they have 1 hour to get back to the school while avoiding being caught by him. Nato then declares that anyone who doesn't make it back to school in the time limit will be expelled, and he doesn't care about Shiki's objection. He then tells the students that they are free to use their powers, and he will only use his in case someone goes berserk. Jin confidently says that he might get killed if he doesn't use his powers, and Nato has no issue with that. Instead, he says that if someone kills him, they will graduate instantly, and then they can join any squad that they wish to fight the Momotaro agency. He then says that the school is there to prepare them for real-life challenges, and he is going to test them at each step. He asks everyone if they are ready, and Shiki replies that he is going to give it his all and ace the tests.